Speak freely.
Let's do. Justin's mic is obviously on mute. He doesn't even realize it.
There we go. Now it's on the internet.
Yes, this is how we wanted to begin. Perfect. Yeah, so we wanted to do a special Book of Boba Fett podcast / live, and we'll do this like a weekly episodic thing. And we'll probably, if you know this works out good, we'll probably continue doing it for the other Disney Plus Star Wars show that's going to be rolling out this year. I think there's 3 in total.
3.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, there's the obviously Book of Boba Fett, the well, it's 2022 at least. I think
is Mando going to make it in time? Andor for sure.
Andor, and then Captain Andor, and then Obi-Wan, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan's next. And then Andor.
Obi-Wan's next is coming in the spring.
I think?
Spring
and then
summer,
Andor right after that.
Andor, not Andor.
Sorry, Andor. And then after
Andor's a planet.
And then after that, I think it's what, Mandalorian? Hopefully near the end.
Yeah, Mandalorian comes
November?
November or December again.
All right, yeah, so lots of Disney stuff coming. So we'll do breakdowns on all of those shows. Well, let's start off with this one here. The Book of Boba Fett finally drops. It's been, a year in waiting since we saw the end credits of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So, and then we have... It finally dropped yesterday. We got to watch it. I watched it a couple of times. You watched it a couple of times. But first of all, I want to, welcome everybody who's watching this or listening to this. Thank you for joining us. If you're wondering why I'm sounding like this, for people who are listening to me in the podcast before, is I'm just getting over a cold. I don't have COVID. I got tested. I don't have COVID, but I'm just getting over a simple cold. Should be okay in the next couple of days. Justin sounds like that all the time. He's crazy and wacko, but he's fun, and we like Justin. And this is Justin's first time. Justin's first time on our podcast. The other gentlemen, D and Chris, do our weekly regular podcast, but I thought I'd bring you in because you love all things Star Wars, don't you?
Apparently I'm the Star Wars guy.
Well, you did a lot of Star Wars video on our YouTube channel, right?
I have, yes.
And they can check us out at Astonishing News and Reviews on our YouTube channel. If you're not familiar that we have a YouTube channel, we have one. We do all kinds of action figure reviews. And you can go check us out at our social media outlets at Astonishing NR on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're all over there doing some cool stuff, putting up pictures, news-related events to pop culture, all that stuff there. All right, with all that out of the way, let's get started. So, first up, we have this show that drops out of nowhere. I mean, Book of Boba Fett is long been waited, a year, like I said. What did you think right off the bat when he is in that chamber and, he's healing himself because he's been beat up pretty bad, right? He's had a pretty rough go of it.
He has. So, all in all, I enjoyed the first episode. It was a pretty slow episode.
We should tell. We should tell people that this is a spoiler episode. So.
Oh yeah, we're gonna spoil the hell out of it.
Yeah, we're not gonna go every little detail, but we're gonna go through the.
I mean,
episode.
I might.
I mean,
there wasn't a ton. There wasn't a ton of detail.
You can, but for me, I'm just gonna skim through some of the major talking points. I'm gonna talk about that, but yeah, a little warning to anybody that hasn't watched the show. Make sure to go watch the show and then jump back into our review. We don't want to ruin it for you right now.
There wasn't a ton of things. There aren't a ton of things to spoil. I mean, to be honest, most of it was shown in the trailer. Not in a bad way. Like, it wasn't. The trailers didn't like overshow anything. It was definitely like an establishing episode. And I even went back and rewatched the first episode of The Mandalorian just to see if the pacing was the same. It was quite different. I remember kind of The Mandalorian starting off slow, but watching it again, there was a ton of stuff that happened in The Mandalorian. They had tons of action.
The Mandalorian is supposed to be like a Western type of show, right?
Yeah.
This is
definitely a different feeling, different theme show, which I did enjoy that they weren't just kind of copy and pasting because I mean, a lot of the Star Wars newer movies and stuff have just done a lot of copy pasting of just like, all right, now they go to the planet, now they meet the bad guy, now they get the rebellion, then they blow up the big planet shooter thing. So it was nice that they did start on a different foot altogether. But yeah, the opening,
it's supposed to be like a mafia Godfather type of thing, right? So
absolutely, yeah. And to their credit, those movies are slow as hell.
Yeah.
Like they start out for the first like 45 minutes or like 75%, it's just talking, going into bars. This is this guy. This is this guy. This is why you respect this guy. So they definitely nailed that.
Setting the scene, so to speak.
Yeah, not slow necessarily, but like a lumbering, just like building on this. And
putting things in places.
Yeah, I also do enjoy the fact that they kind of know that they don't have to draw people in. They're like, we're making a show about Boba Fett. People are going to watch this. These are Star Wars fans. And they don't necessarily have to cater to the tropes of like, oh, we got to hook people in the first little bit. We got to make sure they come back. It's like, you're here for Boba Fett. You're going to fucking watch it. Like, yeah. So they are taking their time, hopefully. Again, it was slow, but I think in the long run, we're going to look back at it and be like, okay, it's building that story, building that world. Even though it is a very familiar character and world altogether, being on Tatooine, being Mos Espa and the huts and the underworld and whatnot, so we are familiar with it, so they don't necessarily have to do a ton of establishing, so it wasn't like a lot of hand holding or anything like that. But yeah, the opening scene when he was in the bacta tank, because yeah, he's had a hell of a time, and I did like that they were doing the flashbacks, because like the expulsion that they've done on the Tuscan Raiders and the Sand People or whatever in The Mandalorian. Let's put my phone on silent. Alright. Yeah.
So this is a 7-episode TV show. So
yeah.
See, this is the problem I have with Disney Plus shows. It's they're too short.
Yeah.
For me to really get an idea of a good show, I think 8 is the minimum a show should
like
be
8 to
at.
12
yeah
is kind of the norm.
Because
but that being said,
I mean, if it's an hour long, okay, fine, we could do that, right?
Yeah, but let me, like, that being said, a lot of shows that do like 12 episodes or more, there's always the filler episodes. Yeah. And like true. The Mandalorian, looking back now, I think it had maybe one filler episode, but it was still enough character building, because I'm trying to think, the filler episode that comes to mind was the one where they go to that swamp planet or the forest planet. Yeah. But exactly. Even then, like, to have one filler episode, but it's still being, because that was more cementing him never taking the helmet off.
Yeah.
And I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was a character that was introduced. Also, it was more building on Grogu and stuff, or Baby Yoda at that time, because we didn't know his name.
Yeah.
But it was still a badass episode, and a lot happened. There's a lot of action and stuff. But so yeah, I think while I agree, I prefer longer format, like 12 episodes, 1 hour, 45 minutes, or something like that.
Especially if you're waiting over a year or 2 years for a show, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, take the time, put an extra a couple episodes in, albeit a filler, that's fine. World building, right? That's what it's all about. Mm-hmm. And we want to see the world of Boba Fett, and all, like you mentioned, the cities here, Mos Espa. We want to see more of this.
Yeah.
Right?
But that being said, they're working on a new format, because they're not putting this out to TV. They're not doing a TV thing, and they're not doing a Netflix thing.
Yeah.
So they're not just putting out all the episodes right away, and they're not having to cater to advertisers or really anybody, because they're Disney.
Yeah.
Like they're not like trying to get money. They're like, we're Disney.
Well, I mean, they have money through the subscribers, right?
Absolutely.
I'm sure the subscriber count went up when this dropped, because I remember when the Mandalorian dropped, it went through the roof, and then when it was over, so many people jumped off, right?
Mandalorian was the only reason why I got Disney Plus, and the only reason why I kept it was because they were putting out a second season of Mandalorian. Then they announced Book of Boba Fett, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll keep it for another year. Like, that's literally the only reason. I think I've gone on to watch a couple Star Wars movies, and then what else have I watched on there? Oh, the what's his name? What the hell's that guy's name? He was from The Fly.
Do you watch any of the Marvel stuff?
No.
Wow. Okay.
I'm trying to
exclusive. Okay, well, I think we need to get back into this.
Jeff Goldblum. I watched the Jeff Goldblum thing.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. But
we need to get back into the episode. We're veering off away from the episode. Let's get into it. So, we see him in the cryo chamber, whatever you want to call it, rehabilitation.
Back to tank.
Yeah, there you go. And then he's recovering. But it's a great way for them to give us sort of like a flashback scenes, and I like the way they did it. It wasn't. It was like he's having a dream. Right?
Yeah, and it was a really, really clever way to have flashback scenes without them feeling forced.
So the flashback scenes, we'll just touch base quickly, is, he gets, we find out how he actually escapes the Sarlacc pit. That's one of them. But prior to that, they also show him with the Tuscan Raiders, where he loses everything. His armor and all is taken from the, those little guys, what their names, I keep forgetting.
The Jawas.
Jawas, that's it. They steal it, like they always do. They steal all his armor. So, and then the connective environment there, where we know where these armor, where this armor is going to. We know who it is going to, right? That's the cool part.
Cobb Vanth.
Yeah. It's a character that Disney created just for the show, so we know where it's going. I like that how it's connected with the Mandalorian, and it is somewhat supposed to be a Mandalorian 3.5 or 2.5 or 3.5 or something. It's supposed to be like that, right? So that's fine, and it's a very similar timeline. We see him with the Tuscan Raiders. He's a hostage there. They're basically treating him like crap. The little kids are beating him with the stick, and he's just going through some tough times. And then we see him find a way to escape, right? Mm-hmm. He finds a way to escape. He's like to a little guy there. He's like, "Hey, you want to escape?" And the guy just freaks out and warns the whole village what's going on. They all come and try to chase down him, and then they beat him up and get him back in there, tie him up again. But before, when he was escaping, there was a kid that came out first, and he could have beat the living out of him, and he didn't. He showed remorse. So you see that Boba is not an evil person that he was perceived to be in the movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was
even in the movies, and the reason why a big reason why he was such a cult classic is because of the mystery and the mystique behind him, and the fact that like Vader addressed him directly, and he talked back to Vader with like some sass. So he's just like, I don't know who this guy is, but he's a badass.
Yeah.
And like everyone else is terrified of Vader, and he's the one who's just like kind of giving him attitude and not cowering before him, and then again being addressed directly by him. So yeah, to see, because even in the extended universe, which Disney obviously, because they took they kind of did a reset on the lore and everything, they are pulling a lot from it, and going back to the essentially one of the opening scenes where he got his way, or made his way out of the Sarlacc pit. I like that they didn't spend too much time on it, but you also have to think there's people that don't know that this happened, or who just were like, oh, he died in the second movie or third movie or whatever, and just whatever. Because I remember when I was watching the Solo movie, and then Darth Maul shows up, and I was like, oh, cool. They're referencing this stuff. But then like 70% of the audience was just like, I thought he died. And I was just like, oh yeah, other people don't know all of the things. And they did again, I like that they didn't spend too much time on it, but they still addressed it and were like, okay, but by the way, he gets out. If you didn't know that he does this, he's out. This is how it happens. Anyway, moving on. And it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
filled people in who aren't, super diehard fans who know all the stories and comics and backstory and whatnot, but they didn't, again, hold your hand through it and be like, okay, then he did this and then he did this. It was just like, hey, this happened, anyway, next. And the expansion on the Tuscan Raiders, again, they're still doing the less is more thing, which is good, because we all know that Star Wars has a problem sometimes of over explaining things and ruining things, i.e. midichlorians and whatnot. But I'm still hoping they don't do it, but it's like, I don't want to see a Tuscan Raider with their mask off. I don't want them to be like, they're just like people, they're normal, whatever. It's like, no.
Keep the mystery.
They are Tuscan Raiders. Yeah, keep the mystery. I don't know what they're about or what their language is, and that's cool.
Yeah.
And I do like that they're showing more backstory of them, of their culture, and not just watering it down.
Yeah. They're not just savages.
Yeah, exactly. So they are not humanizing them, but they are making them slightly relatable, and again, just showing...
It's like a tribal thing, right?
Exactly, yeah.
They're trying to give them this little story that they're tribes out in the desert, right?
Yeah.
They have their own little culture, community, and they're doing everything they can to survive in that harsh environment, right?
Yep.
So if it means to kill somebody, then they're just trying to survive.
Yeah, I do like... So after when he gets captured by them, which... Side note, when he's getting dragged and stuff, and when the makeup and special effects throughout were really, really good. Yeah. When he is being dragged through the sand dunes and he just, like, his skin is just, like, peeling off. It's so dry. Yeah. It looks really, really good, and is really convincing. The makeup and special effects team did an amazing job. But he gets, captured. He's getting tied up by a pole, and there's a Rhodian next to him that kind of sounds the alarm after he's trying to escape. But then when he does escape and beats up the something dog, I can't remember what they're called, but and then runs off, I do like when they eventually catch up to him, the one dude is just like, all right, and he arms himself, Boba arms himself with a nice stick. And then you see kind of how they are, where they're just like, okay, they're again, as you said, they're not savages. They're not just monsters. It's like, they have rules. They have culture. They have, ways of life. And they're like, okay, he's armed. All right, which one of you? And the one dude's just like, all right, I'll take him. Yeah. He's like, all right, have at him. They all just kind of sit there and just watch. And then Boba gets the crap kicked out of him. And you're like, well, all right.
There's also a sense of, like, they could have all just surrounded him and beat him up, but they picked just one of the crew, right? It's sort of like I don't know, it's like a hierarchy they have already in place, and they're like, there's an honor system there somewhere. Like, you grabbed a piece of, whatever it is, and you want to fight us, fine. We're gonna send our best guy to fight you and show you that we're not just pushovers, and we are to be feared with. So we're just gonna send one guy to kick your ass. And
it might not even have been their best guy. That could have just been like an adolescent and just been like, all right, well, here's part of your upbringing.
Yeah, it could be like, here's your...
Prove yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Prove yourself, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we get that flashback of that. The other flashback that we have sort of later on is how he escapes. I think we should just talk about it now, just because it's so close. How he escapes is pretty cool. Like, he's inside. So we finally get to see the inside of what a Sarlacc looks like. Yeah. And it's gruesome, disgusting, as it should be. Yeah. I mean, this is inside of a stomach or whatever, a gut. And then you see a stormtrooper in there.
Yeah, decomposing stormtrooper. That was a good touch.
Yeah. And then he grabs the ventilating, I guess, the oxygen thing, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then he puts it into
just rips the O2 tank cord out of it and sticks it in his helmet.
And then we know what Mandalorians love to do is they get their blowtorch out, their flamethrower. Mando, I don't know how many times they did it in his TV show. Like almost every episode he had
it's a staple, absolutely,
flamethrower out. So he just shoots through, and I thought
punches through the stomach lining, then just starts barbecuing like his lower intestine or whatever.
I don't know if that's a good idea. Do you want to make a hole inside the pit with sand coming in? I mean, how does he escape? Is this It doesn't show.
He just crawls out.
It's just so weird how he escapes.
Have you ever played Worms Armageddon?
No, I'm not.
Well, there's like in the one of the original ones where it's all 2D, and it's just one of the guns is a blowtorch, and you can go through the dirt in a blowtorch, and that's what I imagine.
Do you think they reference that game in a way?
No, not at all.
So he gets out of there. You see him punching through the sand, and kudos for him because everyone used to make fun of this guy because he got accidentally thrown into this pit, right? He was a laughing stock for a lot of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he gets through it in a cool way. He comes out of there, and he obviously gets captured by the Tuscan Raiders and all that.
Hold on, I'm seeing a pattern here. How many people have been thrown down a pit in Star Wars and then survived? We got obviously Palpatine survived. We got Maul survived.
Yeah.
And then now we got Boba Fett survived.
Well, Luke got thrown out of a pit.
Luke got thrown down a pit and
right?
survived. Exactly.
Right?
4. We got 4 out of 4. Pits are absolutely not a threat. Next movie that comes out and they're like, oh no, there's a pit. They'll be like, just jump down it. You'll be fine. You'll get a new movie.
We'll see him or her later on.
Yeah. We'll see them in their own series. They fell down a pit.
So we get that cool backstory. It sort of helps us understand what he was going through during the time of his absence.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go into the current timeline where he's sitting on the throne of Jabba and Bib Fortuna. He's taken over that now.
Yeah.
And he's got people coming there and giving him like sort of gifts, whatever, like trinkets, things like that to just show their loyalty to him now because
to pay homage to him or tribute.
They want to show their alliance and they want to show their loyalty to him because he's the next he's the next big boss, so whatever you want to call it. But we get one guy,
the mayor's lackey,
Twi'lek, right? Yeah, that's how you say it. His messenger.
Twi'lek. I think it's technically Twi'lek.
Twi'lek, I think it is, yes. So we get the messenger comes in, and I gotta admit, I did like the acting. It was really cocky. You want to call it?
Yeah.
Very condescending.
It was very like aristocratic, condescending.
Like, I see what you're saying, but listen to what I'm saying. Because my boss is bigger than you. Right?
The actor who played him did a
good job.
Phenomenal job. Yeah. He could have been annoying and just like done it. He could have leaned too hard into it.
Yeah.
But no, he did a very good. Don't shoot the messenger. Yeah. I know that's he's not too keen on you, but thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that you are letting me leave. I do.
But
Mayor might not really care about that, and he'll probably take it a different way, but I appreciate it. I do. He was so diplomatic, and it was great.
I love the little speech at the end just before he heads out. He goes, just to let you know, there might be a delegate on the way after me.
Yeah. I might be back.
In some capacity, somebody
or
will
a
be
bigger
back.
Guy with guns might be back. I don't know.
Some sort of message will be sent to you again.
Yeah, it was so politically.
It was good. It was great. I
phrased.
loved it.
It was
I loved it. And then,
that was really good.
I love how Boba just goes to. I keep forgetting her name now. What's her name?
Fennec Shan.
Fennec Shan just goes to her to keep an eye. And she's like, I keep an eye on everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
And let's talk about her a little bit here. She's like, she's obviously his right hand woman. But she's more than that. She's smart. She's obviously deadly assassin.
Yeah.
She seems to be aware more than he is because he was not obviously around for a while in the city scenes when she was, right?
Yeah.
So she's more aware of what the city's all about and how it's changed.
Yeah, she's definitely more of a local. While Boba, I guess, kind of worked for Jabba, but didn't really hang around too much.
Is Boba too nice for the role?
I was thinking that. And I was like, are they going to make him like, no, I'm just a good guy. And then I was like, you know what? Jango Fett wasn't really evil either. And
Well,
I mean,
okay,
to
well,
quote
you-
him, where he was just like, I'm just a
you
guy
kinda-
trying to make his way in the universe.
You kind of jumped to something I wanted to talk about, but yeah, let's get into Django then, since we already brought it up here. We get a flashback of that too, which I love.
Oh, I did.
love that flashback.
Those were new scenes too that they
Yeah.
shot
Exactly. I was just
from the
gonna
Clone Wars. They
They could have been
recreated
lazy.
those.
They could have been lazy. They could have
just
slapped-
reuse the footage. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
love that because it gives validation of what Boba has inside of the burning desire to hate Jedis. He's not a
Yeah.
fan of Jedis, right? So
Yeah.
and this is why, because his dad got slayed by one, right? Good old Nick Fury chopped his head off, right?
Yeah. I love one of the attention to details that they had in the Clone Wars was have the shadow of his head flying out of the helmet when it was careening through the air. Also, ANR drinking game. I just said attention to detail.
There you go. Start drinking.
I am.
But yeah, so that was cool because it gives the little the father and son thing, and also he is a clone of his dad, right? A direct clone. There's no alternation, nothing to his DNA. He is what, the last version of him? Because after that they clone, but they use different. They mix around some of the clones, right?
Well, he was the only one without the
Genetic
accelerated aging.
Yeah, there you go.
So at this point, they'd all have died off.
Yeah.
Because even during the Clone Wars, yeah. So yeah, I guess at this point, yeah, they would all have died off. I guess I assume that they had accelerating aging to get to the prime age, and then it stopped accelerating. So most of them were probably just seniors at this point. But
but I mean, therein lies the, you know, he hates Jedi. So it's funny because we haven't seen him interact with the Jedi yet.
No.
And I don't know if that's foreshadowing something that is going to happen down the road, because there are rumors that Luke will show up in this show. And
you know what I think that they'll do? And I haven't heard anything leak wise or anything. I think they might do a similar thing that they did with the Mandalorian to Boba Fett that they did with Obi-Wan. I think maybe the last episode.
But do you like that? I mean, isn't that just copying the Mando? I personally wouldn't want a Jedi in this show because it doesn't need a Jedi in the show.
I agree, but I also said this exact same thing about Boba Fett and the Mandalorian. I'm like, if they put Boba Fett in this, I'm gonna hate it, and they did it so well.
Really? Why would you say that? I was looking forward to it.
Well, first season, I was like, they're just gonna if they just shoehorn Mandalorian for fan service or Boba Fett in here for fan service, it's gonna be balls. But they didn't do it in the first season. They did it very well in the second season, and
well, they finally
so
showed
at this point.
Well, I mean, up until now, we didn't even know what Boba Fett was capable of doing. Right?
Exactly. Well, yeah,
he was,
except for getting hit in the back by a blinded dude.
Like
extended universe aside, the only thing that we've seen him do on screen.
Well, live action, right? Yeah,
live action canon has just been shoot a gun and point a gun.
Yeah. Walk around with spurs. Right?
Yeah, spurs, yeah. But yeah, in Mandalorian, I said the exact same thing. I was like, I feel like they're going to put Boba Fett in here and it's going to suck. Because it's just going to be like, look who we brought! And everyone's going to be like, whoa! And it's going to be, that's cool.
Yeah.
But it was so well done, and when he did show up, I was really, really happy. So, with that being said, if they do a similar thing and like have Obi-Wan show up, then I think they will do it well. They seem to have tact for...
I mean, it is Tatooine, so...
It is Tatooine, and at this point, Obi-Wan would be on it.
Yeah. So, and it could be a great sort of segue.
Yeah.
And it'd be smart if they just kept doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think
you could just build a world within the Disney Plus shows.
Absolutely. Yeah,
universe, sorry. Yeah.
They're building a universe. Well, they're doing it at this point. It would be kind of
Ahsoka's coming too as well. Don't forget that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And then so maybe they'll just kind of lead into each other. So when we're saying I wish they had more than 8 episodes, and I wish they were half hour, if they keep doing this, like twice a year.
It'll just feel like a long continuation.
It'll
right?
just, yeah, exactly.
So long as you sprinkle in the cameos.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the other thing that is to be careful with, is not to have too many assistants, many cameos where it takes away from the main story. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that was the big complaint and big fear with doing Boba Fett, was just, he's a Mandalorian and so is Boba Fett and everyone knows him, so they want to sell merch, and that was it. That was the big fear of just having it forced and not natural, and they spent a lot of time making sure there was a good reason why Boba Fett would show up.
All right, so let's get back into this. So we've got a great back end of who he is and what he's gone through for any new viewers, because one of the things we also have to recognize is a lot of Star Wars fans kind of roll their eyeballs when they see flashbacks. They're like, I already know about all this, but we have to understand, we have new fans coming in every year, every month into this pop culture world. And for them to do a little bit of backstory to sprinkle in, it gives people some sort of like an idea. Like, for example, my son, he's never watched a Boba Fett movie. Like, he doesn't know who Boba Fett is at all.
Yeah.
You know, and for him, like, when he watched it with me, he actually stayed up till midnight to watch it with me.
Nice.
And he got a little bit of a backstory, but now he's more interested in, like, okay, I want to go see how his dad died in the movies.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back and do that. And he's done that with
now these are ultra prequels.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I do like that, because they have to always give a little bit to the general audience. They have to let them know what this is about so they can be engaged more, right? And so, yeah, it's great to have all that. Okay, so Tatooine, the two major cities that we've been exploited to is Mos Eisley, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, or Mos Eisley, and Mos Espa, right?
Espa and Isley.
Isley. There you go. See, I'm terrible at that. I apologize, people. I'm trying here, okay? I do know my Star Wars, but not in depth. So obviously that's why Justin's here, so I don't look crazy. But so we get to see this city now, you know, the underworld of this city. We've been used to seeing the other one. Here's the problem I have with this is I can't tell the difference. Because they don't show any, like, they don't show me the outside cities. Maybe they will. I mean, who knows, right? They're walking around right now. They walked, and you know, the cool part was like, he's like, you know, he's not getting what's that thing that they used to lift up Jabba and Bib for tour?
Something itter.
Whatever it is, you know,
Clatter.
she goes to him. Why aren't you going? And he's like, I don't care about that.
I walk on my 2 feet.
We also forgot to talk about it's the two twins, the Gamorrean.
Big
boys, the big boys.
Yeah,
the guards, right?
Yeah,
and you know how they're loyal to him. That was cool. So keep them there. Don't kill them off. They're nice piggies, right?
Well, okay. So then going to the Gamorreans, how they came out was when they've got captured in the hostile takeover. Actually the droid, fun fact, 8D8, I think his name
torture
is.
droid.
The torture droid from
way back. That's from the Jabba days too, right?
Yeah. Is it 8B8? No, UK28. Anyway, that droid, I don't know if it's the same droid, but it was the same type of droid that was in the torture chamber of Jabba's palace. Is voiced by Matt Berry, who, if anyone's watched IT Crowd, I have
no idea who you're talking about.
Oh, really? So the guy who voiced the droid was a British actor that was in the show The IT Crowd, who the droid in The Mandalorian, in the episodes where they go to rescue those rescue the Twi'lek guy, and what's his name, the comedian is in it. Anyway, Richard Iowati was the voice of the other droid in the Mandalorian episode, and they're both from the same show. Anyway, nice. Fun little tidbit.
So we got the Gamorrean guards, basically, you know, their escort now. He's walking towards the sort of place called Sanctuary, which is sort of like the cantina part, a new version of the cantina, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's in a different city, and it looks like the band and everybody else decided to just move from that cantina to this one.
It was this not size. Was it size? No, Max Rebar.
Yeah.
Rebel. Yeah. So he shows up, the same piano keyboard player. There's an actual name for the instrument.
I'm still waiting for that figure, Hasbro. So can you get me those figures? I would love to have them.
Did you also notice they were playing like a
different
flamenco version of
the
Cantina song?
Yeah,
that was really cool. I didn't notice that till the second time I watched.
And we unboxed the Cantina in one of our YouTube
we did
episodes. So
together,
yes,
you can watch that.
I would love to get more characters in the Cantina. It'd be so cool. Like
you know what, that would have been a good stretch goal for the Rancor.
I know, right?
Is have like the whole band. Everyone would have pitched.
Yes.
You get 100%. Max Rebo, whatever her name is, and you get all their instruments. That would have been rad.
So speaking of hers, we have Garsha Whip, whatever you want to call her.
Yeah.
The owner of the sanctuary. She shows up, and apparently it's a cameo from an actress. I can't remember her name.
Jennifer Beals.
There you go, Jennifer Beals. She looks good for Twilight. So
and something that is also interesting. It's a good move of progression because it was mostly just like white people that were all the aliens, when it was usually the other way around. It was always like people of color who were the aliens, and all the white people were the main characters. And it seems to almost be the opposite in this. And it's just like, all right, Disney, you're doing all right.
So we have her, and she immediately like just accepts the fact that he's the new boss.
Yeah.
Right. She's not hostile. She's not sarcastic. She's not condescending. She's just right away like, oh, you didn't come in your little throne?
Yeah.
But you're the boss? Okay. Well, let me give you this back. Here's this helmet that we took away from you. We're just going to give it back. And they look in the helmet, and it's just filled with coins, right? Money. It's sort of like payment.
Yeah. And all the coins, or a bunch of them, I don't know if they're the same coins, but they all had the Rebel insignia on them.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So it was...
That's their currency, I guess, right? So
yeah. Well,
which is strange.
It is, but it kind of makes sense because the timeline, Empire's just fallen, and so this is literally after the season, the second season of Mandalorian. So it kind of solidifies that time, or not? No, wait. When did the Mandalorian? Was it between Empire and Return, or was it after? I can't remember right now.
It was. So you're talking about the Mandalorian episodes or the seasons?
Yeah.
It was. Well, Luke was already old, right? So Luke, well, not old.
5 years after Return. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I was remembering it correctly. So yeah, it's after the Empire's fallen.
Yeah.
So their currency is the Imperial credits.
So it's switched over, right?
Yeah. Or it's just kind of like up in the air of just like, how do we spend money? I don't know. I got a bunch of these coins left.
I would have loved.
Maybe that was kind of a slight, and she was just like, "Yeah, thanks for coming. Have all this useless junk.
That would have been.
We got piles of this shit in the back. Please just take it." I
would have loved to see Boba go, "What is this?"
Yeah,
because he was stuck in the Starlac, right? So he doesn't know.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Right? He doesn't know what's going on. I mean, like, does he really know the Empire's gone? Like, I mean, Mando took care of some bad guys in the planet, but it wasn't like the whole galactic.
Yeah, they were like remnants.
He had no idea if Vader's gone or not, right?
Yeah. Or how long has he been out for?
Yeah.
And
so I
guess
I would have loved to see him say, "What is this?"
Yeah.
Real stuff. Like, and she'd be like, "What are you living in a rock under a rock for a long time?" No, I've been inside the Sarlacc. Thank you very much.
No, sand.
Yeah. So, we get her acceptance, and then they basically are walking back out, and they're, heed the warning that we just heard from the messenger that someone will come visit, and I guess in that someone who comes visit is a bunch of assassins.
Yeah. Now, was that the mayor, or was that?
Well, it's got to be the mayor, because I saw the trailer for the next episode.
Yeah.
Well, I'll mention that at the end why I think it's them for sure. So
Okay.
we got the assassins. They kind of circle around them, and they got this cool digital shield, whatever you want to call it, and they just got this electric shock prods, and you got Finnick and him sort of surrounded.
Mm-hmm.
They can't get out of this. What did you find that weak that they can't get out of this?
Yeah, I do like his. But again, they're not superheroes. They don't have superpowers.
Yeah,
like we have to remember that too. Is like,
I mean,
Boba
she does try climbing off the shield.
Yeah, they do try a bunch of things, but like I think they were just kind of overpowered by a superior tactic. And again, they're both just like assassins or bounty hunters. They're not Jedi. They don't have superpowers. And I do like his knee-jerk reaction just to shoot a rocket and it explodes, blows them back. And I was just like, it kind of humanizes him, which again,
but
Star Wars has a knack for just being like, oh yeah, by the way, they're space wizards and they can see everything and they can jump from a million miles. And it's like, it kind of humanizes him where he's just like, shit, and then they all fly back.
I wonder if this confirms in his mind that he needs to get a big team together.
Exactly, too.
Where he never gets caught off guard ever again. Like, it's sort of like a learning curve for him too, right? Because he's never been in a position where he's a crime lord now. And now he's got to get his shit together real fast, because if he doesn't, he's going to get incinerated, especially when you've got this antagonist now who's just a straight up jerk and, you know, doesn't care for who he is, doesn't bow by the rules of whatever the underworld lays have. But yeah, so we have the Gamorrean guards come in and they just bulldoze a couple of these guys.
Yeah.
Gives these two the opportunity to get into like actual, you know, fair fighting where the shield's not blocking their attempt, right? Gives them more space, and then you know what happens when you give more space to assassins. They're going to take full advantage of all of their weapons and their abilities and come after you. So we see these guys, you know, kind of backpedaling, the red ninjas, you want to call them, and they're climbing the roof and running away. Yeah, and then you see Boba just go...
Just annihilate a dude with a wrist rocket. Which, by the way, neither of them showed up with guns. So they were absolutely... maybe naive and just hey, we're just gonna go to the pub.
I guess they're low level goons, right?
No. I mean, Boba and Fennec. They didn't have their rifle. They didn't have their pistols. Nothing. They just showed up unarmed.
And I guess that's the inexperience that they're gonna have to learn from.
Yeah.
Hopefully, this show lets them evolve and become more deadly and aware of what they're dealing with here. Maybe that's what they're going for.
And I guess it also was used to kind of remind us that Boba's still healing.
Yeah.
And he's still like,
well, yeah,
you know, maybe got some atrophy for the couple days, weeks that he was, because when he gets out of the Starlight Pit in the beginning, that sky or that sand skiff is like not smoldering, it's not smoking, like that wreckage is done. Yeah. And it's been there for a while. So he was probably in there for a couple weeks at least.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he's walking out onto the town and he's immediately getting reminded like, yo, you got some work to do, bud.
So it's funny because, you know, after he blows up the guy, he goes to Fennec
and just goes alive.
And I'm just like, you could have just done that with this guy, right? Like, I mean, grappling hook anybody, you know, like
he obviously wanted to keep one of them to interrogate. And I do like, so after the quintessential parkour scene, she has both of them at knife. Oh, which, by the way, the stunt team and the stunt work that was done was really good. The fighting, the hits are hard. They don't pull the punches. They don't have a lot of shaky cam. Like, you see some really good hits. And the choreography was really well done.
I love when he throws his knife at her.
Oh,
and she does that side
she does like almost like a half side back
cartwheel, almost like a cartwheel, right?
Yeah, side like cartwheel. A back cartwheel, and then just jumps off the roof.
That was dope. Dope.
That was pretty sick. And then when she has them both at the end, one at knife point, she steals one of their weapons, and then you can see the wheels turning where she just said, "Alive. I only need one of you. Piss off," and just kicks the guy off, and you hear him screaming and falling for a good 50 feet, and then the thump at the end. Yeah, that was good. Where she just pauses on her eyes, and then she's like, I only need one. Just yeets him off the roof.
What I was alluding to earlier was I know it's the mayor because in the trailer they show him show up to the mayor's office with one of these guys in chain.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he's like, "You know who I am." Like he goes straight to the mayor's face. The mayor's Mok Shan, I believe his name is Mok Shan, and goes right to his face like, "You know who I am." He walks into the room like, "I don't give a shit. You're trying to lie to me that you don't know who I am." And so that I know that's the mayor sending out their goons. So that was episode 2. I think is we're gonna see that happening right away. So I think that's why he wanted somebody alive, because then he could just take that. But I still just find it so hilarious that he could just done that with the one that was climbing the wall, right?
Yeah,
rappel him down.
But no, that one he's.
And maybe he wanted to keep only one alive and kill the rest. Maybe he meant that to her, right? Let's kill everybody else. Keep one alive.
I don't think he was saying like, "Oh, don't kill them. We need to be nice to them." He was just like, "I need one alive." Yeah,
exactly. Kill everybody else. Just keep one for our interrogations.
Yeah.
So okay, so we get that part. To me, like it makes sense how they just were caught off guard, and I'm okay with that. Some people might get upset the fact that they were caught off guard. I get it. This is inexperienced people here trying to figure it out.
Yep.
But
it does.
I think by the end of, let's say, episode 4 or 5, they better have their shit together, because that's not acceptable again, right? Like, you've gone through this in enough episodes now where you need to hire more goons or have enough alliances on your side that you're never ever gonna have the situation ever happen to you in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
Right?
And as Fennec said, like when she was talking to them when they were going up to the place, and she was like, "Why aren't you being carried around?" And he's like, "No, I don't want to walk around like a useless dignitary or whatever." And she was just like, it deems respect, And he's like, I want to rule with respect, not fear. And she's like, well, in these times, fear works.
Yeah.
And then they get the shit kicked out of them, and then they're just like, that's not going to look good for PR.
So he's gonna have to come to some sort of understanding of how to work within the city that he's in, right? Like he's gonna have to keep some traditions of what an underground boss does, and how he's perceived and goes about his daily activities. So he's gonna have to do some of these things. I get it that he wants to rule with respect, but he's gonna have to bring in this group. And we saw in the trailer where you see this dining table, or not dining table, a big meeting room, where he has all these henchmen in there. So I'm hoping that is the point where he goes to everybody. He's like, if I don't get that respect, I'm gonna kill every one of you.
Yeah, well, right? And two, like, again, he just got his ass handed to him in broad daylight in the middle of the street, so he's gonna make an example real soon.
So episode 2, I better see him bust the doors down on the mayor's office.
I was gonna say, I think episode 2 is gonna be some. Yeah, I don't think.
Do you think the mayor is the main antagonist, or just the first stumbling block?
No.
I
think they'll maybe spend an episode. I think episode 2 it'll be a bit more.
Who is his main antagonist? We don't know, right?
That's a good question.
It's so
There's
mysterious.
been some speculation that they might bring in Prince Shizor, who was head of the Black Suns, who they kind of referenced and brought back, because those were all Legends things now. It was in the game Shadows of the Empire that came out on the, I want to say, the N64 and PC back in the 90s or early 2000s. Where you play as Dash Rendar, and Prince Shizor. I can't remember the species, but they're the green skull-looking dudes with purple and yellow robes and stuff. They had later that crime syndicate essentially got turned or taken over by Darth Maul, and then they became the Crimson Sons, which was brought back into lore with the Solo movie and Star Wars Rebels. No, not Rebels, Clone Wars, I think. Anyway, so there is some rumors that Prince Shizor will be brought back into reality. But for the most part, because the Hutts are pretty much all wiped out except for one that we know of that isn't confirmed dead. The little guy. Can't remember his name
The
either.
son, right? Is it the son?
Yeah. Yeah, he's the only one who hasn't had his death shown on camera. Speaking of death shown on camera, we had a dude's throat slit. Like, front and center. And I was like, okay, Disney, all right. Bringing out big guns already. Just first episode, just slit a dude's throat.
Speaking of big guys,
Yeah.
let's get into the flashback scenes now again with the Tuscan Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh, yeah.
we get Mortal Kombat now all of a sudden. Goro.
Goro, is there a chat function in this? Because I have a picture to send you. Or wait, no, I can just put it on screen.
You could put it on screen.
You know what he reminded me of? How do I put this on screen? Share image. Your computer. Upload a file. Downloads. Where did that go? Oh, does it have to be?
Well, while you're doing that, I'll talk about that because I didn't see this coming at all. Like, I didn't see this character. I've never seen this character in any of the Star Wars, whether it be movies, TV shows, whatever it is. I've never seen any of them. And I just thought it was crazy looking.
This is what it reminded me of. Those like hand goblin, hand puppets.
God, so good. So good.
Things. That's what its face looked like. And the CG on that thing was, I'd say, a solid 7 out of 10. In some shots, it looked really cool. In others, it was a little janky. But not enough to annoy me.
Yeah.
It was definitely just, I think, me nitpicking. And I was like, the textures on this could have been a little better. Maybe it needed another pass render at the lighting on it, because it's just sticks out a little in some shots.
Oh, that's the editor in you, right? That's what it is. Like,
Yeah.
you're looking for that little minute perfection, right?
Yeah.
But it is expected, though, for such a big budget company. Right?
And I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, there was no time in The Mandalorian except, no, the blurgs. The blurgs, actually, now that I remember it, there was a couple scenes in the beginning, and that was pretty heavily stated online for people. It wasn't just like animators and editors and graphic artists who were just like, those kind of look like shit. It was just everyone who was just like, they look kind of dumb. But then later, when he's fighting the Mudtooth or Mudhorn or whatever, that thing looked badass and that thing looked great.
Yeah, that looked really good.
It seems to be a trend where the first episodes, they kind of...
Maybe they're rushed. Who knows?
Yeah.
So we get him basically jumping on the back of this thing and grabbing the chains. Allah asked how Leia did it with Jabba.
And they had a lot of the same, and I know that they did this. They had the neck, when he was strangling him with the chain, distort and pull in like a rubber suit. Like it wasn't done realistically. It wasn't done realistically. They didn't try and make it look real world.
Yeah.
I really hope that they did this, because it looked identical to how like cheesy and bad the rubber suit looked when she started strangling Jabba, and the neck of this creature did that. And I was like, somebody did that on purpose, because that's not something that would naturally happen when you're rendering and editing like that. It's like somebody intentionally made that look like fake rubber, I think.
Okay, and then the other scene that I wanted to talk about is
actually before he gets strangled, when he kills that Rhodian and just picks him up and shoves him into the sand and just annihilate. Like, again, there were some pretty brutal hits in this first episode. That Rhodian died hard.
They were not catering to the kids on this episode.
No, like,
this was not a
you
kid
see that dude's just chest caving,
which is great, because we don't want to see that, right? Like, we want to see we don't want to see crazy over the top hardcore, but we don't want you to. This is an underworld TV show, you know. Like, this is not a princess and fairy tale TV show. This is hardcore underworld. We want to see some of that, and I'm glad they didn't hold back on some of the brutality and they gave it to us, right?
Yeah.
It would just be ridiculous to have a perfect, you know, TV show without any of this stuff in it, and you're going to call it an underworld TV show, right? Yeah. The other part was the red Nitos, those I want to call them biker gangs of Tatooine,
Yeah.
beating up that farmer, right?
Yeah, the swoop gang.
Did that remind you of Luke's little
Absolutely.
house?
I thought that they were immediately just having Uncle Owen and Lars show up, and I was gonna be like, "Oh, this is bullshit." And then I was like, "Oh no, it's just some random dude." Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
But it gave you that vibe.
I thought they were gonna be like, "Oh, it wasn't the stormtroopers. It's actually a swoop gang that killed his aunt and uncle." And I was gonna be like, "Oh God, already like episode 1 and you're pandering." But it was fine. It was just some dude. I like how they tagged his house, and they're just like, "Okay, we looted it."
And I think that's important because they have to symbolize, so that way Boba can remember that down the road, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he'll be like, oh, I remember that insignia. You know,
Yeah,
like,
planting little seeds.
You're the piece of shits that beat up that farmer for no reason.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna kick the shit out of you guys now because I'm gonna teach you guys a lesson.
Or just like, all right, those guys are hard as fuck. let's use them as the brutes.
Beat them up and say, hey, how do you like to work for me?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just
Right?
like those guys are super hard.
Right for the first time now.
Yeah.
And he needs to get more of these guys on his side.
Or
right?
I mean, again, we don't really know the alignment that Boba is going for, because he said like, you know, I'm gonna rule with respect, but that might just be because he's smart and knows that fear eventually just implodes.
I wonder if it changes him.
I was gonna say, we don't really know how Boba
and I don't
is.
mean physically, like Bib Fortuna got fatter, right?
Yeah.
What I mean is, like, does it change him in terms of like he's charting on the way of being a good person.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this power and all this corruption around him changes and makes him go back into that rabbit hole of, you know, what's best is for me, and I don't give a shit what's best for you.
But that being said, he is raised on Mandalorian honor, right? Like Boba or Jango Fett wasn't Mandalorian specifically. He was brought into it later on. And so those ethics and that code would have likely been part of his upbringing. And we saw in The Mandalorian, he did know a lot about the Mandalorian culture, know a lot about the history when talking to what's the Mandalorian's name? Din Djarin?
Din Djarin.
Yeah. When talking with Din, so like there is a lot of knowledge about the Mandalorian code and culture and whatnot. So and again, the amount of things that we've seen in canon things, you know, the movies is very little. So we don't know Boba Fett as, you know, this hard ass super evil dude. So he's probably in the Mandalorian's eyes like a gray Mandalorian, where he's not evil, he's not good, he's not working for Mandalore, he's not working against Mandalore, he's working for himself, but he has those morals. He has that Mandalorian moral compass.
He's not gonna go killing women and kids and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But
he's got
like
standards.
How he was, how he was explaining and how he was doing things, where he's like, you know, respect, honor. These are important.
Yeah.
When she was just like, oh, should we kill him? And he's like, he's the mayor. Like he's looking forward. He's forward thinking.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, if I kill him, the mayor's gonna get extra pissed. He already doesn't like me.
Yeah.
So that's just gonna piss him off more. So you know what? I won't kill you.
He's sort of like
you're welcome.
he's trying to position him to himself to be sort of like a tactical boss.
Exactly.
Rather than a brutal boss, right?
Yeah.
He's like, how can I get people on my side because it'll make my life a whole lot easier having less knives on my back.
Yeah.
Right? That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to build a relationship with everybody, even the people that hate him, to see sort of eye to eye and not have that threat. But you know there's always going to be somebody that's just not going to see eye to eye. And I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen in episode 2.
Yeah. Well, I think a kind of foreshadowing of how he wants to run things is with the Gamorreans. Where they were captured, we need to torture them, and he's like, would you be loyal if I let you live? And they're like, hell yeah. And then 10 minutes later they show up and save his ass. So I think that's going to definitely be a reoccurring thing, and is also kind of foreshadowing of how he runs things.
Exactly. Are you so what did you think of episode 1? Like, what would you give it out of 10? I've done this with D and Chris in the other shows that we watched, we kind of gonna give our overall out of 10 per episode.
I think there's two ways you have to look at it.
Before you give your take, is there anything else you want to add?
The armor putting on scene was pretty rad.
That's cool. Yes, I would love to see the spurs. That'd have been hilarious.
Yeah,
they giving it to him. He's like, nah, I don't think I need this one right now. That would
just
cool.
takes him off. Yeah,
yeah. He's like, yeah, no.
I think as a first episode of a show, it wasn't that good.
Really?
Just compared to,
I'm shocked you said that. I'm shocked.
Well, I mean, just like taking it as like not a Star Wars thing and not a Disney Plus thing, because again, they are going on a different format. Compared to any other show, if this was on normal TV, if this wasn't Star Wars, it would be a really boring first episode.
Okay, let's say, forget all that. Let's say it is what it is, right?
It is what it is. I think it's great.
What would you give it out of 10?
I'd say probably a 7.
Okay, a 7. Just
6
specifically on the show.
Yeah.
You give it a 7 out of 10. That's very close. Like I'm giving it a 7.5.
Yeah.
It's, I understand what you're saying. There are parts where it's slow, but for me, it was important to see the backstory of how and all what transpired prior to him getting to where he is. I think that's a great way to bring on new audience too. So I applaud them for doing that. I also like that he wasn't overly powerful right off the bat. They're showing that he's gonna become who he is, the crime boss, but it's in a show that it takes time to do that. And I'm hoping in the 7 episodes there's enough time to show us that he's learning, he's becoming stronger and better in terms of tactical, or in terms of overall being an underlayer boss, whatever you want to call it. There's a growth there, progression happening. I want to see that.
They did that with the Mandalorian.
I'll be disappointed if there is no progression.
Level up his armor and stuff. Yeah.
Like if the show ends in episode 7, they still have the same Gamorrean guards as the only people protecting him.
No,
I'm gonna be very disappointed. I'll be like, really?
Yeah.
Like, come on, right? So yeah, let's see. I mean, episode 2, we'll talk about it next week when it drops. We hope everybody enjoyed our little conversation here. We spent about an hour talking. Justin, you did the top 10 Star Wars figures of 2021. If anyone is watching and don't know what we're talking about, we have a YouTube channel that talks and reviews action figures. You can go check that out at Astonishing News and Reviews. Hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, because every month we're giving a prize on our YouTube channel. There you go. So with that being said, I gave it a 7.5. You gave it a 7. I think it's worth watching if you are new to this lore and you want to learn about it. I think this is a good show to dive in right now, and it'll probably give you, if you like this, you're definitely going to go back and watch the movies and even The Mandalorian, right? Yeah. But I think right now is the time to dive in, because the other shows that's coming in is only going to complicate things if you don't dive in right now and get into this little world that they're building, right?
Yeah, I mean, compared to because I rewatched The Mandalorian episode 1 today as well. And again, they are very different feeling shows. I think The Mandalorian had a better first episode, but that it had to, mainly because it was the first live action Star Wars. It had to because
we've never seen a Mandalorian TV show before.
True. Yeah.
We don't know what to expect. We've seen Boba before, albeit in small samples, but we've still seen him, and he is a cult, classic character that a lot of people love.
Well, that was the first foray into live action Star Wars TV shows. So they had to start that good. So I think their Boba Fett is, again, not leaning into the TV tropes where they don't have to please to advertisers, please to producers, do blah, 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 and they don't have to. They are kind of riding on the coattails of like, okay, we've done this successfully once. If we start slow, I don't think too many people will be upset about it. And in the long run, I think once the full season is out, it will fit in perfectly with it. And I think this pacing is absolutely planned for a full series, not episode per episode.
And I have full confidence in Dave Filoni to do that, because ever since he's jumped on board with Star Wars, he's sort of become the next George Lucas.
Yeah.
Where he's very calculated, he's smart, he respects the lore, he doesn't go and overhaul things. I'm talking to you, J.J. Abrams, about the nonsense with the trilogy that he put together. Dave Filoni is your new George Lucas, in my opinion. And he's fixing the things that are wrong with Star Wars, and he's putting it together on Disney+. And already I can say The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, even though it's only one episode in, is far more compelling than the trilogies that we got. The recent trilogy. Just so much more in line with Star Wars.
Yeah, I haven't rewatched the new trilogy.
And you should never, ever have
at all.
Ever. It is.
I think I rewatched the first one at my parents' house like 2 years ago, like during the holidays.
Just trash.
Like,
trash.
We were pretty drunk, and it was fine.
All right, okay. I guess that will wrap it up for today. We hope you guys liked it, and join us next week when we do part 2. So wherever you're around the world or the universe, have a good morning, a good day, and a good night.
Bye, Internet.